Today we're going to be talking to Tim Field, who is a VFX producer. So let's just start with your career beginnings.
Right.
Did you always know that you wanted to work in the industry, in the film industry?
I was sort of also a T-boy for a number of years, working at Pinewood and getting onto film sets and just seeing how films like Outland were approached physically with lots of different technologies that were utilised, sort of an Intervision technique, back projection, front projection, the optical techniques, and what was actually being shot in camera physically.
So did you have any specific training to get into the industry?
No.
No.
I mean, I think one of the things that it just is that process of being around the work that was being done meant that you learnt, and it was an interest-driven learning. So you sort of worked out how to do things and asked questions and learned. The influence of visual effects and the whole sort of which way to take the whole film, it's so influential. So even though sometimes the script isn't necessarily a sort of very obviously visual effects, it could be something that people start wanting to get a gauge of very early on. So I think that's just producers realise that, and they then want to talk to facilities, supervisor, producers at the earliest possible stage.
Is there like a basic technical level of knowledge that you need?
Politeness. That's a good one. The quick answer to that is I think the beauty of the visual effects world is that, you know, as I've been describing, whether it be something to do with shooting things or acquiring data or whether it be the more compositing and sort of CG-driven design and execution of Ava's body and stuff, there's a complete range.
Yeah.
But I think the top guys are people who communicate really clearly. I think that's really important. Who have, you know, the supervisor of Ex Machina was a perfect choice in many ways, because he had a very artistic, you know, he could draw stuff, you know, he's a great artist, but he had a really good physical, sort of almost engineering perspective of the script, and that was backed up with a lot of, you know, you bring out models of machines and things, you know, that were all discussion points about how things might work. So it was a real crossover from the art to the sort of science, if you like.
Yeah.
And I think that applies, that was a good example with a supervisor, but that applies to more or less degrees across the whole board of visual effects, because you have your tech guys who arguably are less of your artistic people, and then you have the more creative previous artists or conceptual artists who you know, who are designing things and drawing things that come out with fantastic imagery.
So what do you find helpful or not helpful from the different departments that you're working with, basically, specifically the director? Yeah,
different departments. I mean, it's a collaborative process. The difference with the collaborative process with visual effects is that whatever they do, we end up with. And sometimes we end up with things that need replacing or changing. Sometimes it's a bit of a waste. So, but I think there's a general thought process that directors and producers have, which is that they have the production designer, they have the DOP, they have the costume girl. They have these people who are on their payroll during the shoot, and they want to get the most out of them. So visual effects sometimes get pushed a little bit aside because we're going to have our day later.
Yeah. And
a lot of people want to get stuff in camera and shoot things for real. That's generally the way most films directors want to approach the film. And that's allowing them the tools in front of the camera to play with, and for directors, for actors to be able to interact with and respond to and get performances. So everyone gets that. But you know, we have those polite meetings about you know, the colours of costumes and things with green or blue screens, or you know, or with DOPs about, you know, lenses and cameras and formats and all those things. All those things happen. But we in visual effects, we might steer them sometimes or flag issues and concerns. But I think the DOP should make all those decisions. The production designer, you know, there's a lot of respect that everyone's giving to those head departments. So we then, you know, sort of ensure the film's shot in a certain way, but then later have to pick up those pieces. No one's going to bring back the DI. Well, we might bring them back for the DI, maybe not even these days bring them back for the DI, probably not speak to the production designer again, or we might a bit, but they've had, it's now over to us, and we may change loads of things get changed.
Yeah.
The design of the film.
Where is the money spent in VFX? Like, what is it exactly that you buy with the budget for VFX?
That's a good question. All right, how long you got? Well, I mean, a lot of people talk about visual effects budgets, and a lot of top producers in a very inappropriate way, because they are talking about the digital effects budget, and in that, what they're talking about is the shot costs, and in that, they're talking about a breakdown of the shot costs, which means the asset builds and the within a shot, there are all sorts of internal costs that make up the cost of the shot. And that's what most people talk about when they talk about visual effects budgets. They mean the digital shot cost budgets. And that breaks simply down to assets and shots. That's in its essence. That is not what I get asked to manage or on a studio movie. That doesn't make up the whole of the visual effects budget. The whole of the visual effects budget include everything from your departmental costs, running of the department. It includes the previs. It includes all on-set data acquisition. It includes post-viz, if that is appropriate. It includes, in fact, most studios include the visual effects editor and all of his costs or her costs in their Avid and their rooms. So there's a lot of other costs that are all, some studios call it overhead, which is a bit of a misleading name, but it's I call them departmental costs that make up the whole budget that and also miniature construction, shooting, all those sort of things. You get cheeky producers who will put all your blue screens on your visual effects budget, and then you get the even cheekier producers who will include all the rigging and de-rigging of those blue screens.
Wow.
So they're the fights I have with live images, saying, hold on a minute, that's your construction.
Your budget, yeah.
Yeah, that's out of the art department. What's going on?
Do you feel that the advances in technology give you more creative expression, or cut out the part of creative processes to speed up development?
Right. I think you have to answer that saying that with all these options that you have now that you didn't have 10 years ago or 20 years ago even, that it allows a more creative environment to be working in. I like to think that you could always do, you can always come up with an equivalent movie 30 years ago with the same script. And the creative aspects of that behind the scenes would be the same, arguably. But what I suppose the technology these days allows you to do is experiment and try.
When you say you didn't get taught skills, but you picked them up, do you think that is still possible to do in this day and age?
You know what, I think it is, to a degree, to be honest. But I don't know, you need to be lucky enough to have, you can pick up a lot of skills, for example, sort of on the set, perhaps from coordinating, from data wrangling, assistant data wrangler on the set, you're just quite savvy about how to behave on a set and what's needed and doing what you're told, then you'll pick up a lot of stuff. So I think there are certain there aren't many though. It is fair to say what that question's getting at is that things have changed, obviously, and it is harder to perhaps pick it up as you go like that. But there is also, I think, a respect that people give you that if you have done that and you haven't just sort of stepped in from a course, but you've done stuff yourself, whether it be at home, taught yourself some compositing tools or whatever, and got yourself out making films and doing some shots on lower budget films or short films and got yourself a reel. You don't need, I don't think the training guarantees actually anything. It doesn't really anything. And actually nobody questions where you come from.